Want to welcome in guests, been on the show a couple times now, man. My man from the Legal Blitz, co-founder or founder of thelegalblitz.com, my man, Steve Silver. Y'all give it up. Where's my button? There he is. All right. Steve, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Okay. I mean, a bit of a tough day. I started my career in Las Vegas, at the Las Vegas Sun, and it's, tough news to wake up to.
Oh, man.
So been a rough day. There's some other news that has gone on all day, but, happy to, divert the attention and talk about sports.
Well, let's not divert it right quick, because I didn't know you had a personal attachment to Las Vegas. I started the show talking about that. Where are you, man? Where are you when it comes to gun reform in this country, man? I'm curious as a legal mind. Where are you as it pertains to that?
Well, look, I mean, we obviously have a problem.
Yeah.
Whether it's mass shootings or one-on-one violence.
Right.
Where do you come out? What do you need? Look, I live in Maine now. Hunting is a favorite pastime. Do I want to take those guns away? Absolutely not. But there's a difference between a rifle, there's a difference between a handgun, and there's a difference between an automatic weapon.
Absolutely.
And what do we need them for? And frankly, hey, maybe you get the best weapons that money can buy, but maybe there should be a test. Maybe there should be a mental illness screening. Maybe there should be re-registrations and retests. You look at Japan, somewhere I visited, and they don't have any of this. Why not? So it's difficult. And then you look at the other side of the coin and you think, well, look, if the police and the government are the only ones with guns, what happens to us as individuals?
Yeah.
We see the abuses on that side. So it's there's no easy answer, but I think not doing anything
exactly
is not right.
Exactly what I said, man. Like that seems to be the answer every time. Like, this horrible thing just happened. I told the people in the first segment of the show, like, I knew everything was over after Sandy Hook. Like, when no one gave a damn after that, after children were getting blown away at school, it's over. You're not gonna care about anything then at all, ever.
Let's remember, Mike, it's not just that we didn't do anything. It's that there's a sizable percentage of the country that thinks that was fake.
Right.
I mean,
right.
That's what we're dealing with. And I'm sure it's going to come out after this. It's sickening. It's a place that I've, spent several years and go back to, and I think hit in a way that the other cities didn't. Places I've never spent time. But I think I posted on Twitter this morning. It doesn't matter if you're at a country concert, a rap concert, whatever it is. Everyone deserves to have fun and go home.
Right. People went there to listen to music and went home in body bags.
If we can't do that, we have a problem, and there's no amount of prayers and thoughts that are going to change anything.
That's why you my man. Because that's the thing I hate the most. Like, something terrible happens, and everyone says, let's pray, and my thoughts go out. Well, the bad thing has already happened. It's done. Anyway, man, the other voice that you're hearing, my man Steve Silver from thelegalblitz.com. Make sure you guys are following him on Twitter and Facebook at The Legal Blitz. All right, let's get into this FBI probe, this NCAA situation, something that we always love talking about. All right, first and foremost, tell me this, Steve. What are the actual crimes that we're talking about? I was talking about this on Friday. Like, what are the actual crimes that the FBI is investigating in this particular situation?
Well, so I think that's the number one question, because you can look on paper.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at the complaint and, gosh, they hit them with everything under the sun. Okay, bribery, violations of the Wire Act, fraud, conspiracy, you name it.
Now, what's the Wire Act?
The real question, well, I'll get there, but the real question, hold on, is what was the crime? Because in any other setting other than college sports, what was done is just normal recruiting. It's normal corporate headhunting.
That's what I said.
And I'm not alone in this, because sometimes I say, well, here's my opinion, but, you put 10 lawyers in a room, you get 10 different opinions, and I've talked to and followed other lawyers, other experts, and they agree. What exactly what was wrong here? Now, to the extent that Adidas and some of the corporate executives were misusing funds or were lying about funds, in terms of profit loss statement, taxes, that's obviously more towards the criminal side, okay? But just giving the money to the players to entice them to go to a school, that's not a crime. It's a violation of NCAA bylaw, but that's not the law of the land, okay? That's not a crime. So it's bizarre that it has gotten this far.
See, that's what I was saying on Friday. That's what I didn't understand. It just felt like anytime the players are allowed to touch money, people have to lose their damn minds. That's what it always smells of to me. Furthermore, let me ask you this: with what you're saying being the same thing, I believe that it's just an NCAA situation. Who should shoulder the brunt of the blame? Is it the NCAA, the schools individually, the shoe companies, AAU basketball? We were just talking about that in the last segment as well. The individual coaches that actually got arrested. Like, who should shoulder this blame for what's going on right now?
Well, I think we haven't seen the end of where this will go and who will really bear the brunt of this.
Yeah.
It's funny that you see a few assistant coaches go down, and that these head coaches are aghast that this was going on in their program. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, you don't get to be both. You don't get to be the emperor and then be the guy who I don't know anything. Roy Williams and Jim Boeheim and Rick Pitino. These guys hover over these programs and they fancy themselves as the guy who nothing moves unless I say moves until the wrong thing moves, and then I don't know anything.
Well, and I think it's unique. I think it's interesting. It's not to say that there aren't payments and there aren't things going on in football. And I know for a fact that there are. And I've, worked with a lot of athletes at all levels, and they all pretty much tell me the same thing. Now, they're not getting. I don't know any football player who's getting six figures like some of these basketball players were allegedly getting. But basketball is interesting because it really only takes one or two guys to turn a program around. And there's only how many even on the bench? I mean, there's not a lot of people to manage. So to say the head coach doesn't know seems a little ridiculous. And going back to your original point, what the FBI should have looked at was saying, well, hold on a second. Doesn't this violate the antitrust laws of the United States? We're getting all this money funneled kind of underground to these teenagers. Why is that? Oh, because there's a cartel that fixed the price,
right?
And that price is free. Okay, so why is the FBI suddenly the enforcement arm of the NCAA? Why are tax dollars funding this?
Look, I have. We're gonna talk about this more because, as I said on Friday, we're at the tip of the iceberg, and there's some people that are shaking and quivering in their boots, trying to figure out when the tidal wave is going to hit them. The other voice that you're hearing on the show tonight, on the One Mic with Big Mike show, is Steve Silver, the founder of thelegalblitz.com. Follow him on Twitter and Facebook at The Legal Blitz. Last time we spoke, you were contributing to Vice Sports. That's still going on?
Well, I was, and then Vice Sports, got a big axe taken to it.
What? Where
it's like a lot of these websites that, are pivoting to video, whatever the hell that means. But, I suspect there'll be some pieces. My last piece was predicting what the Supreme Court's going to do with the sports betting case. And now that the Supreme Court is back in session and, we're under a year out from having a decision on that case, I'm sure I'm going to be doing some follow-ups on that. That's something that's maybe is put to the back burner with all the other news, but we could be 9 months from legal sports betting. And it's going to be a major, major case at the Supreme Court.
No doubt. You heard it here first. 9 months away from legal sports betting. Is that like where I'm in Atlanta and I can get online and just bet on, Falcons this week or whatever? You mean like across the board, across the United States?
Well, it will still need a state-by-state rollout as it stands now.
Okay.
Now, you can bet, you can take to the bank, since you're talking about betting, that the leagues, the NFL, the NCAA, NHL, all of them are currently lobbying in D.C. to get a preemptive change to the federal laws. Because their worst nightmare is that the Supreme Court goes, the distance and says, oh, it's legal. PASPA, the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, is unconstitutional, so you, 50 states, go ahead and vote. If you want it, you got it. And we know there's already a dozen or so states that have already passed law. Mm-hmm. So if that day comes, they're ready to go right out of the gate. And you could go to the sports book like you would in Vegas and place your bet in some states like New Jersey where they have online gambling. I suppose those websites would be up and running right away, and you could do it from your phone. You can do it from your house.
Oh, God, I got to get in on that. I got to find a way in on that before it hits. Real talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk Rick Pitino, because he seems to be the central figure of this right now. He hadn't been arrested. He's just been placed on administratively, unpaid administratively. He got a $44 million buyout. Where did that, how do you even negotiate that? But anyway, okay. So I'm reading today that he's still telling, his lawyers still saying he knew nothing about what was going on. He's just taking the fall because he's a head coach. Meanwhile, there's other reports that saying the Fed actually has phone records of him talking to these Adidas people and distributing this money. So my question to you is, what legal ground does he have to stand on? Because he's not just going to walk away from that $44 million. That's not going to happen. He's going to go kicking and screaming. But I guess what they say, Louisville is putting the steps together to fire him appropriately with cause. What legal ground does he have to stand on?
Well, I think the first thing to put out with all of this, and something that, authorities do often, as the FBI has done here, is, they release all this stuff, and they release some names, and then they don't release other names, mm-hmm. and there's, Coach One and University Two, and that whoever they are, and when they're all named, that they're all innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And, what the crime is, I don't know. Now, with Rick Pitino, the terms of his contract, that I know of, and I don't have the contract, so I don't have the whole thing, mm-hmm. but there's a huge difference, and as you said, millions of dollars of difference between firing with or without cause. The school could get rid of him at any point and just say, we don't like the color of your hair. You're done.
Right.
Okay? And that's essentially without cause. He didn't do anything wrong, and so he has a clause in his contract that says he's paid X amount if that happens. Now, if it's for cause, so committing a crime, I assume, would be one, tarnishing the reputation of the university. I mean, it would be specified as to what qualifies as for cause. Probably NCAA violations that strip the school of the national title, which is likely what's going to come of this. Those could all be for cause, and they don't have to pay him. Maybe there's a smaller amount they have to pay him, depending upon what was negotiated, but that is a huge difference. And they can't just unilaterally say, we're firing you and here's why. They've got to have some proof. They've got to have some backup.
Yeah.
And I assume with that amount at stake that there would be litigation, and so maybe it's a matter of coming to a mutual agreement to part ways.
Yeah, that's usually how those things end. The travesty in all this, to me, is because the NCAA got caught with their pants down. Like, the Fed just came after 2 years and was like, by the way, we've been investigating this whole bribery scheme going on. They knew about it when we knew about it. Is that now they start going after the kids? You know what I mean? They start going after the kids and the families of the kids who took the money, and then trying to levy punishment on them and have these kids either become totally ineligible or miss games or be suspended and all these kind of things. And I think I just think that's fugazi, man. I want to get your thoughts on that.
So, this is one of the first things I gave an interview maybe when the day this broke to a newspaper down in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And that's what I said. I said, the fallout from this, forget about the criminal aspect, because that's going to take a long time to prosecute. Okay, but the immediate fallout is going to be the NCAA is going to double down with their iron fist.
Right.
And it's going to impact kids, some of whom may have violated NCAA bylaws. And I don't say that they did wrong, because I don't think that anything that they've done is wrong. It just violates bylaws. And they're innocent teammates. Okay? Kids who are on the teams, that suddenly the records, the wins, the titles are going to be vacated. There's going to be a harsher crackdown on anything that's perceived as some sort of improper benefit. When really, if they had any 2 cents, this would be a wake-up call to say, what kind of a system do we have going on here where this is what is taking place?
Right. You fostered it.
I mean, look, Sonny Vaccaro, who's a name some of the listeners might know, he is basically the godfather
of all the shoe stuff, right, okay? Of everything.
He, has said, and then, he gives interviews all over the place, he said, look, his idea was to pay the players. He wanted to put the shoes on the players and give them money to wear whatever brand he was repping, but the rules wouldn't let him. So instead, what did he do? He paid the coach.
Yeah, gave Jerry Tarkanian $5,000, and from there on, it just grew and grew and grew to now Rick Pitino is getting $2.8 million a year from Adidas, like that. To me,
so what's the difference? Okay, so think about that. Mike, if I say I'm going to give you X amount of money and I want you off of this station, but I only want your show on my app, okay, right, and I'm going to pay you to only have you on my app. What's wrong with that? That's not a crime. That's just recruiting and sponsorship.
Yeah, it sounds like business to me.
But it's not business only because there is a private organization whose bylaws are treated as if they are
actual laws,
criminal statutes.
Right. Look, I've been saying that for years, man. We can go back to like my time on actual pedestrian radio, when people would call our radio station and start using words like guilt and innocent and crime when we were talking about Terrell Pryor trading a gold pen for tattoos. I'm like, you can't criminalize this. It's not a crime. It's just a dumb rule. Because once you give me something, it becomes my property to do what I want to do with it. If I want to go bury it in a cave somewhere, it's mine. You can't regulate it anymore because I just happen to play college sports. But that's one of the, I think, the biggest tricks that the NCAA has been allowed to play. They've been allowed to change the way people think about who they are, as though they're some sort of subpoena power having government body, when really they're just a crooked organization with antiquated rules that allow them to rob kids blind year in and year out for billions of dollars.
And it's bizarre that it is so accepted, because it's maybe one of the more un-American institutions in that it doesn't utilize a free market.
Right.
And I'm not even one that advocates for a set amount of payment. I say let the market decide. Okay, so look, if there's some backup offensive lineman who's maybe not worth as much, that will be dictated.
Yeah.
But if a quarterback can get 6-7 figures, okay. If the D line is going to host the party at whatever sports bar on Thursday night, and they're going to get paid a few $100 to be there, great. Okay, this is what America's built on, and so there's got to be a way to cut that in. And you can't look back at this FBI unveiling and the system where you say, the number of athletes and the number of sports haven't changed, but somehow the coaches' salaries have gone up by millions and millions of dollars. The number of administrators we need has gone up. We're building mini golf courses, in the middle of a locker room.
That Clemson situation is ridiculous.
So, and look, and I have testified down in South Carolina State Senate against the people from the athletic departments at Clemson and South Carolina who said that they have no money. They have no money.
But isn't that the way it's set up, though? Because they're nonprofit, the way it's set up where they have to spend all the money, so they dump all the money into these huge salaries and into these facilities and everything. So at the end of the day, they can claim, well, we're in the red or the black or whichever color is the one that's negative, and say we don't have any money.
Well, that's right.
Isn't that how they set up the system? They rig the system that way, don't they?
Well, they've got to spend the money, and they can't spend it on talent. And I think the genius, state senator, his name's Marlon Kimpson from Charleston, and I think the genius of his proposal, which he knew would never pass, is that we want to put $5,000 stipend, okay, $5,000 a year, that the athlete can only access upon getting his or her diploma. So now the challenge is, okay, it's tied to academics. So how can you oppose it if it's helping kids graduate, right? It's an incentive to raise the graduation rate. You say that they're students first. Well, let's put your money where your mouth is. And, they didn't like that, okay? They got a little rattled by that. And, I assume that bill will probably come up again, and we'll keep pushing towards it. But why not do that, okay? Hey, you've essentially served the university, you've played, and now here's an incentive, to graduate, get a diploma, and some money that will, set you up on your feet. Because the sad thing about this, and I think it's lost in the debate, it's not about today's dollars. Okay, yes, the athletes need it. All right, there's certainly bad situations. But it's 5 years from now, it's 10 years from now, it's 20 years from now, and guess what? The guy's got to have a second or third knee surgery.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Or he needs special equipment for his house. Or maybe his, shoulder's bothering him, and he's got to get a certain type of car. I mean, there's so many costs that we, as taxpayers, actually will probably shoulder the burden, because if someone's disabled or they've got to, get future health care treatment, which almost all of them do, who's footing the bill, And it's certainly not the universities, and it's certainly not the millionaire coaches.
Got a couple minutes left here with my man Steve Silver, the founder of thelegalblitz.com. Make sure you guys are following him on social media at The Legal Blitz. It's one of those things where I sit up here and I think about this sometimes, man, that part of the problem is that the guys, the kids that have the most influence are always the ones in this situation with the most to lose. So when you start talking about, kids standing up and demanding more, there was an article a couple of years ago, maybe it was last year, about the kids spatting their shoes to cover up the logo. That they have the ability to do that because the NCAA rules actually state that they're not allowed to be used as human billboards. But the fact of the matter is, how can someone ask Saquon Barkley to do that or Sam Darnold to do that? They have the most to lose. Of course, some backup kicker could do that. One of these guys that are getting kicked off the team for having YouTube pages that are making money, which is, again, ridiculous. But I think the NCAA preys on that, the fact that there'll never be a scenario where the most popular, most powerful players in football or basketball are going to ever do anything because they're the ones with the most to lose.
Well, and that is the whole system. Yeah. And it's built on a house of cards. And, Dr. Harry Edwards, who might be someone that your listeners know, but has been active in social movement for decades now. I had the chance to hear him speak, and he told the crowd that we were close, and he didn't say what year, but he said in recent history, we were close to a Final Four where the teams were not going to take
to sit out. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Okay, and I have to believe that that's died down a little bit because litigation has forced the NCAA to give them, cost of attendance stipends to pay for their parents to go to tournament games. There's been some improvement, but that's it. The athletes hold all the power, and essentially, it can be a risky proposition, but they have the power. You saw it at Missouri.
Yeah.
And after they didn't even protest. It was a threatened protest. Okay. So after the threatened sit-out at Missouri, I wrote an article that was on Deadspin at the time that said, they are the most valuable asset the university has.
Absolutely.
It's not to dehumanize these kids, but it is to put it in a context of, look at the power. All they did was threaten not to play, and the university president got ousted.
And the chancellor. I mean, both of them.
What if they didn't actually take the field? And look, I mean, are there grounds to revoke scholarship? And there's all kinds of penalties that can come from it. But you're seeing it more and more. I think they're understanding the business. You're now seeing more of these athletes sitting out bowl games, that are useless for the most part. And why would you not? I mean, you got millions on the line if you're a top tier athlete. So, I think the advocacy has died down a little bit amongst the athletes, but I think it's still percolating, and the money's too big. At what point is it going to break? When the coaches are making $20 million a year, and they're making 10 now. At what point is enough? And at what point does anyone really stop watching? I mean, we've seen this before, and NCAA has used this for years in litigation to say, well, if you pay the players, no one's going to watch our games anymore.
Well,
that's not true.
They're talking to Bubba in Alabama, who says that ridiculousness. No one cares about that.
You're in the South.
Right.
Yeah, you're in the South. How many people are not going to go cheer for their alma mater or their favorite school down there?
Yeah, they talk that noise. Ain't nobody. There's nobody in the state of Alabama missing Alabama Auburn. They missed the birth of their first child before they missed Nick Saban playing Auburn every year or playing for a national championship. That's just a bunch of nonsense. Look, Steve, man, we could do this all day, man. I love having you on the show. I always get smarter, man. My intelligence level is elevated, man. I appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, man, when the rest of the iceberg starts to be exposed a little bit more, you're gonna have to come back on and talk to me about it some more, my man.
Absolutely, and I'm pretty active on Twitter at the Legal Blitz. I send out my work and the work of others, and all pretty much on these topics. So go ahead and follow me, and keep you educated.
Absolutely, my man. Appreciate you, man.
All right, have a good one.